welcome to the second in our what has been so far a very short series of webinars. This webinar is going to be a little bit shorter probably than the last one, because the last one we talked about preventive maintenance, which is a much broader subject, though this one is not any less important. That first webinar, for anyone who missed it, is available on our YouTube channel, on our Megamation YouTube channel. If you just search Megamation on YouTube, you'll find us. Please feel free to give us a subscribe on there. There's lots of helpful training videos. There's some demonstration videos, and as I said, our first webinar as well as this one are both this one will be available, and the first one is available on that YouTube channel. We'd love to have you subscribe and check out the videos. For anyone who missed the message in the chat, we have everyone muted, including myself at first, but I'm not now. We have everyone muted, and it's just so we can keep questions organized. Matt is on the chat, and he'll be moderating the chat and collecting any questions. And we're going to have a couple of spots designated to answer questions as we go along. What we're going to talk about is making your asset list work for you. Every time I talk to somebody about their asset list, whether it's a new client, a client coming from another system, or someone who's been using DirectLine for a number of years, I always say your asset list, your asset hierarchy is the foundation of your system. Everything you do in your system is going to comes back to that asset hierarchy. Every work order needs to have an asset on it to charge labor and materials. Every PM has an asset on it, because that's where it's your assets that you're working on in your preventive maintenance. Any inventory that you collect, you're collecting it to work on those assets. So everything's coming back to that asset list. So having a good, solid asset list, a nice, well-structured asset hierarchy is the foundation to having a well-running system. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The subjects we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about expanding your asset hierarchy. So we'll talk about a couple of different types of hierarchies you can set up, a couple of different ways you can set them up, and some ways you can keep them neat and easily searchable. Next, we're going to talk about the bill of materials function. A lot of people don't. A lot of people, and probably most everyone who is here, since most of you are coming from a hospital or a school background or school system, you probably don't have a spare parts inventory in the system. That's just me speaking from the experience of working with many clients. Most schools and hospitals don't necessarily keep a well-stocked parts room. But that does not mean that you cannot use the bill of materials functionality on the equipment or in the asset module, because it does. There is still a lot of benefit to using it, and I'm going to show you a way that you can use it without setting up a full inventory module. I'm also going to talk about some features within the asset entry screen that will help to improve work orders. It'll add some functionality to your work orders. And then last, we're going to talk about a new feature in the asset module, which is the view related info button. And if you've seen this, if you've seen this already, some of you may have it in your system. Some of you may not have it in your system yet, or just maybe you're just not aware of it. It is a very handy tool. It gives you access to a lot of information, and I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you that before we're done here today. So the first place we're going to go is to the asset hierarchy. As I said, this is going to be the foundation of your system. The asset hierarchy it's the parent-child relationship of your assets. And why do we need a hierarchy? The hierarchy helps us with searching. A clean hierarchy makes it easy for users to find assets, even if they're not familiar with your maintenance process. When someone is submitting a work order, if they don't know what classes to search by, or they don't know what manufacturer to search by, an example would be a new employee who doesn't know they don't know what the make and model of the bed or the boiler is, but they know where it is because they're standing in the room and they're submitting the work order, so they know it's in building A in room 101. So they can use the equipment hierarchy to drill down and find that. The next one, or the next thing, is reporting. A good clean hierarchy allows you to use things like the hierarchical cost reporting functionality, which lets you roll up the costs for a group of child objects. So you might want to see for the east wing of your building all of the what it's cost you by looking at the cost to all of the assets within that building, or within that wing of the building. Or you might have your hierarchy set up by system, which I'm going to explain in a moment, and you might have it set up by system so you can report on the cost of all of your sprinkler system. So having a good clean hierarchy allows you that reporting functionality as well. And the last one, the last point that I have here anyway is maintenance planning. Assets sharing the same location or power source, they can be, if you know that by seeing them in the hierarchy, if you know that by seeing that it's by seeing that you have that all of these assets are in the same room, or all of these assets are in the same wing of the building, then you can use that to plan to service all those units at the same time. So you don't have to shut down, you don't have to shut off the power to that location multiple times, or you don't have to have your maintenance person going from one part of the building to the next in the same day. You can have them all working in the same spot, because using your equipment hierarchy, you know exactly where all those assets are. So what are the pieces that make up your equipment hierarchy? Your equipment hierarchy is generally made up of three different things. There's buildings, there's rooms, and then there's the assets after that. So the buildings are going to be the top level of your hierarchy. So it might be, you might have a building for your site, and then if you have sub buildings within your site, maybe if you're a campus made up of 15 buildings, you have your campus as your top level, and then you have buildings under that. Or if you're a hospital that is only one building, then your hospital is the top level of your hierarchy. The next level of that is the rooms. So you've got your building, then you have your rooms within it, just like the physical locations, right? So when you're creating these, there is a separate building entry screen that we're going to use to create the building. And when we do that, when we create that building in the building entry screen, it also creates an asset entry for the building so that it can be put into the hierarchy. The next one is creating rooms, and we create the rooms in the room entry screen. And the reason we do that is because in the room entry screen, we're selecting the building, then we're putting in a room number, and it's creating an asset number for that room that is a combination of both the building and room number. And it does at the that building. So by using those screens when we're creating our hierarchy, we're creating, just by putting in those assets, we're creating the hierarchy as we go. The last one is the last one is the is physical assets. Okay, so if you're doing if you're setting up your hierarchy with your buildings and rooms, now you're going to have assets within those rooms, right? You're going to have your hospital beds or your computer stations or whatever, or your boilers or compressors, whatever assets you have can be placed within those rooms, and then they'll fall right into that hierarchy. There's two different ways that we're going to talk about today to make an equipment hierarchy. The first one is by asset location, which is kind of the way I've been talking about it so far, where we're doing buildings, we're doing rooms, then we're doing assets. And I'm going to show you an example of one of those. This way of doing a hierarchy creates when we're doing by asset location, we're building it by physical location. So we have in here our, one second, let me see if I can get a better pointer here. There we go. So here we have an example of a hospital. So we have the Oakville Community Hospital is the top level of our hierarchy. That's a building. Then we hit the plus sign next to that, and now we have floors. So these floors would be set up in the room entry screen, and that would be the second level of the hierarchy. Then within the floor, we have rooms. We also have a couple of other assets that just fit here. They don't have anything inside them, but we can see that these rooms have things inside them. So this one here has this room right here has a bed and an infusion pump in it. So this is a hierarchy by asset location, because we have our building, we have our floor, we have our room, and then we have assets within that room. That makes it very easy for someone with limited, like I mentioned earlier, with limited knowledge of the system setup to find the assets. Because if they're standing in patient room 202 and they have a problem with that bed, well, now they can go to this, they can go to submit their work order, and they can go to the hospital they're in, the floor they're on, the room they're in, and there's the bed that they can add to their work order. And you might say, well, this is fine. This screenshot here is taken from the desktop version of our system, but my people don't submit work orders from the desktop version. They have that nice little web work order entry page that they're submitting work orders from, and they don't get this. Well, this hierarchical view is available on that web work order entry page and on the mobile system as well. So if you have a cleanly set up hierarchy and you want your people to be able to use this hierarchy when they're submitting work orders, and you're using that web work order entry page or you're using mobile, all you have to do is call our support line. We'll talk with your account manager and we'll get that changed. So that once you have this nice clean hierarchy, then you have the option to add that functionality to your web work order entry page and to your mobile. All right. The next part, or the next way that we can set up a hierarchy is by system. So what this is not necessarily building room asset within the room. Here we're looking at a system like your fire system. And we do it this way if we want to be able to put together the assets from that system and be able to order them just for the asset. So in my example here, I've got my fire safety systems is the second level in my hierarchy. So I have my Megamation University, and then I have the fire safety systems from Megamation University. And within that, I've got a fire alarm system and a sprinkler system. Then I have the ability to drill down into each one of those and see the components of those systems. In the asset entry for each one of these, for say this sprinkler head right here, the sprinkler head unit, this sprinkler head unit has in the asset entry, it tells me what building it's in and it tells me what room it's in. So I can still find where that is physically easy enough by going to the asset entry screen. But I can also now run a report. I can run a hierarchical costing report and find out how much money I spent on my sprinkler system. How much money and time have I spent on my fire alarm system? Or how much money and time have I spent on my fire safety systems as a whole? So not only do I have the physical locations of where these things are, but I can do costing for the systems themselves. And when I look at what I created here, when we look at what we created here, we still have the physical locations of the equipment. If I were to, and I didn't take screenshots of it, but I could show you later, I have physical locations in our Halifax location here. I've got floors and rooms within that. And I also have the fire safety systems here. So doing it this way allows you to do a combination where you have the physical locations of everything so that you can have your buildings and your rooms and your assets within those, and then we can have the fire safety system for the building. And I want to take a moment and I want to show you where we find within the system, where we find this equipment hierarchy. So we can find a list of it under reporting in all modules. If you really want to see, what your equipment hierarchy looks like, in the reporting module, you'll find under building asset an equipment hierarchy list. Okay, this here will run a report, and I'm not going to run it on this one because this is a fairly large hierarchy in our demo database. But this report would let you take a look at your entire hierarchy and kind of analyze it and make sure everything is clean and where it should be. The other place that we see this is in our building asset entry screen. When we go to our building and asset search, so we hit the magnifying glass here next to building asset, and down at the bottom we can change our search type to hierarchical. In here we can go to the Health Authority of Oakville, and we can go to the Oakville Community Hospital, which is the one that I used for my screenshots. And then through here, we can find all of our equipment, and we can view any of these equipment just like that. So again, the hierarchy becomes a very quick, very easy and well organized way for us to find equipment by its physical location. So, do we have any questions so far? Okay, I do see a question from John. Um, Beds are a great example of a device that ends up in different locations. That's a that's kind of the age old problem in hospitals is beds and if IV pumps, everything kind of moves around, doesn't it? We have worked with RFID for locating equipment. I don't know that for sure that we've actually implemented it for everyone, or sorry, for anyone. However, it is something that's been on our radar for quite a while. We have worked with RFID, and if that's something that you would like to explore, then by all means, get in touch with your account manager, or if you don't know who your account manager is, get in touch with support. They'll tell you who your account manager is, and they'll get you in touch with them. And yeah, absolutely, that's something that we can talk about, and we might be able to do something with you to make that work better. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next piece, and we'll definitely John, we'll definitely work with you and get that and see if we can do something with that for you. Okay. So the next piece that we're going to talk about is the bill of materials. And I mentioned this briefly earlier. The bill of materials is something that a lot of people think requires you to have the inventory module set up, and that's not necessarily always the case. So let's talk about what the bill of materials actually is. So the bill of materials is a list of parts and materials that you use to work on an asset. So the filters for your HVAC units, for biomed people, the repair parts for your beds or for your pumps, anything that you're using to do a work order can be put onto your bill of materials, and then it can end up on work orders, and it can end up on your preventive maintenance routines, so that when you run your PM scheduler and your PM routine creates a work order, well, now you know exactly what pump you need, what lubricants you need, what parts you need to get that job done. And it can be made up of inventory parts. So if you have the inventory module set up and you've got a a nice organized stock room where you're keeping all of that stuff, then that's great. You can add that stuff right to your bill of materials. If you don't have those parts in the system, if you don't have that inventory set up in the system, or maybe it's just parts that you're ordering on demand, you're ordering when you need them, but you need to be able to track where you want to be able to track what parts are needed for those assets. Well, you can make up a bill of materials with inventory parts. We can also do it with non-inventory parts. And when you do it with non-inventory parts, and I'm going to show you one here in just a moment that I set up. When you do it with non-inventory parts, you can use the description fields to describe exactly what it is, so that when we're looking at the list of parts, when we're looking at that bill of materials, we can see what information is. We can see what exactly those parts are, and I'll show you some of the details that I was able to put in, the ones I had. Then, lastly, as I mentioned, the items can be then added to a work order or a PM directly from the bill of materials. So let me show you what I mean. Let me go to my training system here, and I'm going to go into the building asset entry, and I'm going to bring up. I'm going to bring up my. I'm going to bring up my asset here because I created a bill of materials on it. So this is for a sprinkler head unit for my fire system, and I went to the bill of materials tab, and I broke down my sprinkler head unit into its individual pieces. Or I broke down my sprinkler head unit into its individual pieces. So I have the sprinkler head listed as a part. The warehouse is NI because it's a non-inventory part. And then in my description, I've got the brand, the size, the style, and the part number, and how many of these parts are needed for this unit. I also have the escutcheon plate. I have the size, the finish, the mount, and again, the part number. So if I'm getting these part numbers from the manufacturer, I can put them right here onto the bill of materials. Put them right here onto the bill of materials in the description, and then I can find them whenever I need. And then I have my last part here is just my drop-down pipe, and I just put the size and the material. So I've got all of this information. So now when I create a work order for this unit, I'm going to be able to pull this stuff right from my bill of materials and put it right onto the work order. Since I'm looking at this asset, when we were looking at our screenshots, we saw this asset was part of our sprinkler system, and we'll go back to that hierarchy right here quickly. And we had our fire system, we were in the sprinkler system, and then we saw our sprinkler head units. And I mentioned that even though we have them placed here in our hierarchy and not in their physical location, we still can find the physical location because we have the building and the room listed on the asset entry. So those are, excuse me, that's just to take a step back from the bill of materials, and we can see that we do still have that information available on our hierarchy. So this bill of materials we're creating, and I'm doing it just by typing a part number in here, and these are not inventory part numbers. I don't have any inventory in the system. This is just a this is just me adding in our this is just me adding in non-inventory parts just by typing something as a part number, just like this, and then it defaults the warehouse to NI, and then I can put in I can put in my description. And I can do the same thing I did with my drop down pipe. I can put in the size. And all of that information can just be put right in here. And then all I'm doing, I'm just building out that building out that bill of materials just by adding descriptions. And then I just save my part, and now I have it on there. So that again gives us a little bit of extra information into our equipment, gives us a little bit more use out of our equipment module by adding a bill of materials, even if we don't have parts in inventory. And we're going to circle back to that bill of materials in a few minutes as well. I'm going to show you another way that you can build out your bill of materials. The next thing we're going to talk about, I mentioned some features to improve your work orders. So these, when I say features to improve your work orders, these are things that are on your these are things that are on your building an asset entry screen that will carry over into your work order with some added benefit. So the first one is the warranty expiration date. And if you're lucky enough to be getting new equipment and you've got you have some equipment that is still under warranty, then you can put that warranty expiration date in, and then when we look up when we're looking at that equipment and we are submitting a work order for it, and you've probably all submitted work orders at one point or another, when we put in that asset number, it tells us the unit is under warranty. It still lets us go ahead and create this work order. So it says, are you sure you want to proceed? And we say yes, if we want to continue. Or if we don't need a work order because it's under warranty, we just say no, and then we can call the manufacturer. But maybe we continue to create the work order and then use that to contact the manufacturer or the supplier. But it lets us know that it's under warranty so that we can follow whatever procedures need to be followed for that equipment that's under warranty. Another thing that's on our asset entry is the hazardous materials section. And the hazardous materials section ties in with the hazardous materials module. The hazardous materials module has a lot of really good information in it. It allows you to track a lot of really good information. The location of hazardous materials, disposal information for hazardous materials. It lets you track hazardous materials that you might have on hand and when they need to be disposed of. So there's a lot of information in the hazardous materials module. So, and if you're interested in that, definitely contact support or contact Matt, and he'll get you in touch with someone, and we can with someone, and we can do a training session on it and show you all the details of the hazardous materials module. But the one thing that I want to show you about the hazardous materials module today is what effect it has when we add hazardous materials to our equipment entries, or sorry, our asset entries. And I'll show you that in this system here, because I'm going to go and I'm going to create a work order. Right, so I'm starting my work order here. I'm going to put in my equipment. And as soon as I put that equipment in, I know that there's hazardous materials involved. So it highlights it in red. It gives me this red message up here saying that there are hazardous materials. So I know right away there's going to be hazardous materials problems. We're going to have special handling, maybe special equipment. And I can find all that just by going to the lookup, or just clicking on the asset number here, and then going to the lookup record button up in the toolbar. And that's going to take me right to my asset entry, where I can go to my hazardous materials and I can see all the information about my material ID. So it's just giving you, it just lets you see all that. It just lets you get a look at any material hazards that are involved with this asset. I want to show you one more thing with that as we're looking at work orders for this piece of equipment. Let's close out of here, and I'm going to go to a different work order screen. Because we were looking at the bill of materials on this particular asset, when we come to the labor and material tab, we can go to our bill of materials. I guess maybe I got the wrong one. But the bill of materials right here is where we can pull that information from for our work orders. Again, I'm going to show you in a moment where we can update, an easy way that we can update that bill of materials. And that is going to be in our new features section. So the asset module has been around a long time. The asset module has been around for as long as CMMS has been around. The asset module is has been around forever. Everyone uses it, and there hasn't been a lot of changes to it because you're tracking assets. Tracking assets has been the same for a long time. But the one new feature that we've had, or one of the new features that we've added to the asset module is the related info section. And this has been available or something similar has been available for a while on the mobile, where you can access this information, but this made it available. What it does is it allows you quick access to any existing PM procedures in the system for this asset. It shows you the work order history of this asset, and it allows you to update the bill of materials from existing work orders. So let me show you what I mean. If we're in our training video system, our training system here, and we go to our building and asset, and we go to building/asset entry, and we'll go to our asset again here. You'll see there's a view related info button right here next to the building asset number. When we click on that, it's going to bring us to this equipment related info window. So it shows us our equipment number. It shows us our preventive maintenance. So we can see there's an annual sprinkler inspection. It was last done May 2nd, and it's next due May 2nd of 2023. So very quickly we can, if we're look up this asset, we can see when it was last done. If I hit the view PM entries button, it'll show me the list of PMs and allow me to go right to that PM entry. If I hit view work orders, it's going to show me the work order history for this asset. So I can see that we have a list of PMs here, and then we have an open repair work order for this particular asset. And if I hit OK here, it's going to bring me right to the work planning screen with that work order open. And we can see they found paint on that sprinkler head. So if I'm submitting a work order, well, now I can see exactly why the work order was created. I can see, well, there's already been a work order put in for it. I don't need to put another one. The other piece that we have two tabs here. We have the PM info tab. We also have a BOM update tab. So on the BOM update tab, it shows us all of the parts on our bill of materials, even the one that we entered today. And we also have the ability to, you hit this view parts history button, and that shows us any parts that have been used on this work order, or sorry, any parts that have been used on this asset in the past. So if I looked at this and I said, oh, I should add this seal to my bill of materials, I can select it and I can hit add to BOM. Now I can close this. I could also hit select all and select all of them, but I hit close, and now I've added my seal to this bill of materials. So I can save that, and I can close out of that screen, and now I've got that seal here on my bill of materials. And I inserted a blank line there that I can delete, but that's okay. So now I've added that seal. So now I'm expanding my bill of materials, and I'm doing that just from work orders I've done, just from the parts I've added to work orders in the past. So I don't have to go in and go into each individual asset and try to figure out what parts each one needs. I can use this view related info, and I can use the view parts history to see all the parts that have been used on it in the past, and I can add the parts to my bill of materials that way, which will then make it easier going forward to get those parts. So that is all of the features that I wanted to show you today. So let's take some more questions. Can a bill of materials be built from model specific identity instead of a particular asset? That's a very good question. Right now we don't have that functionality. If you were initially setting up your asset, you could use the save as function to copy that bill of materials to another asset. But that is a very interesting point. It's something we could probably work with you on, to copy that bill of materials, similar to what we do when we're copying information within our PMs. So, John, that's something that we could definitely work with you on. Sounds like you've got a few things that. Okay. Again, so John says he has a fleet of 600 devices, let's say like IV pumps. Yeah, absolutely. A consistent BOM model would definitely be something that would be useful in that case. When you're working with the inventory module, and let me just take a moment and show you this. If you were building your BOM rather than from the asset screen, if you were building it from the inventory module, and I don't have a lot of inventory in here, so this is so pardon my terrible data, but if you were building it from the if you were building it from the inventory side instead, you could take the inventory items and you can add them to multiple assets. So then you could take, say, all of your sprinkler system components, and we could add this part to all those sprinkler system head units at the same time. So if we did it from this side, that might be a way. If you were using the inventory detail entry screen, that might be a faster way to add it to your whole fleet. That doesn't have to be the only way. We'll definitely work with you to try come up with something that would allow you to copy that bill of materials to multiple assets, or maybe across a class of equipment or a class of assets. So yeah, that's definitely something we could talk to you about. Are there any other questions? Roger, if you complete a work order and use inventory, does it automatically update the inventory? Yes, if you're using the inventory module and you're adding inventory parts to a work order, then it does update your inventory on hand quantity. So if you have 3 on hand and you complete a work order using 2 of them, it will change your on hand quantity for you. Right. If there are no other questions right now, as I mentioned, I'm going to put this recording. You're very welcome, Roger. Thank you very much for joining. I am going to put this session up on our YouTube channel and our screencast channel for anyone who cannot access who cannot access YouTube. So, and I'll send it to everyone who was in here. I'll send you the link to it. And if you watch the video again, or you're thinking about it later tonight, and you want to know more, you want more information about anything that we talked about today, feel free to call our support line at 800-344-8655. Hit option 1 for support. They can answer your questions. They can set you up with a training session, and I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you one-on-one about how to improve your asset hierarchy or your bill of materials, or anything at all that you want to talk about. The first webinar is available on our YouTube channel. If you go to if you go to YouTube, search Megamation, and in our playlists there's a playlist for webinar recordings, and you'll find it right in there. All right. Thank you everyone for joining. We are going to make these webinars a regular thing. If you have any suggestions on things you'd like to see a webinar information session on, feel free to send an email to our support line, or you can contact Matt White, and he'll pass it on to me. We're going to make these webinars a quarterly thing, so we'll have another one in just a couple of months. So thank you all very much for joining, and have a great day.